Alright, all you island zombie killers out there, welcome back to the Indy Radio Arcade. And if you're wondering out there, when will I review the sequel of this said film? Well, you won't have to wait long, just about another 2 weeks. So yeah, don't worry, we will be reviewing the sequel in due time. Not so sure about the third one though. Then again, I think I'm getting ahead of myself, and speaking of sequels, folks, I think it's time for us to go into yet another edition of the Instant Classic Video Game Review. And the game we have up on this plate for the month of horror, that we also call the month of evil for a reason, we are reviewing the classic game known as Resident Evil: Veronica X. Now, a lot of people said who reviewed this game along the lines of Catastrophe, who was better known as Sniper Cat 6, and a whole bunch of other speedrunners who loved this series, said that this game was an indirect sequel to Resident Evil 2 and was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 3, but unfortunately decided to go with the name Code Veronica X for the title, which was interesting. And this would be one of the first Resident Evil games that I'll be able to play of the original series with the actual tank controls, which we'll get into in a minute, because the meat and potatoes of this said story is the fact that Claire Redfield, in search of her brother Chris after the horror she suffered 3 months after leaving Raccoon City, would find herself in another troubling situation after getting captured by Umbrella and sent to Rockford Isle, a temporary prison that also experimented with the G-Virus. And yeah, if you think this led to bad things, yes it did. It absolutely did. And what did I like about this game, besides the bad things that happened in it? Well, first off, the one thing that I absolutely loved about this game, besides the musical scores that was featured in it, is the different variety of weapons you get a chance to use in it, besides the standard pistol, shotgun, grenade launcher with fire, acid, and even explosive rounds. But also, I think the other thing that I liked about this game had to be the different amount of jump scares that they included for it. Now, granted, it scared the crap out of me so much that I actually turned off the game in certain points and had to take a 2 to 3 month break to actually finish this entire game, but I did grow to appreciate the jump scares later on in life. And another thing that I loved about this game is the fact that they included Mercenaries mode in this game that featured all the characters that was in the game, including Albert Wesker along with Chris Redfield, and even as much as I don't want to reveal much of this story, but it also features Steve as well in this said game. Now, with everything that I liked about this game, what didn't I like about this game? And right off the bat, for any of you who have arachnophobia, that is the first thing that I didn't like about this game, and probably one of the major reasons why in the world it took me almost a year and a half to beat this game in the first place, is the fact that they had spiders of gargantuan size. And if you think I'm kidding, there was one spider that was the size of the little miniature Power Wheel I used to have when I was a kid that scared the holy hell out of me. I'm not kidding. Had nightmares for 3 weeks because of that one spider, but that wouldn't be the last spider I would see, because they would have this giant oversized spider that was known as the Black Widow underneath the ice that would actually follow you around all the way up until you had to actually get the key for a certain part of the room that I'm not going to reveal to not spoil the story. But either way, I had to let my sister do that fight, and I think I covered that in a Tales from the Disc I told last year, or about 2 years back, for Music Village. Either way, let's just say I hate spiders, the end. Another thing that I didn't like about this game had to have been the tank controls that they had for the game, because in certain situations when you try to get away from a zombie and the fact that you can only go in 1 or 2 different directions all while moving, and I'm doing the motion right now, the tank controls, nobody can see it, but let's just say the controls will come back to bite you in critical moments if you don't know what you're doing. Another thing that I didn't like about the game, and I think a lot of people really did complain about it, was the backtracking that you had to do in this game at certain points. And a lot of people, and I've heard this a lot, saying that this game had a lot of beginner traps, but at the same time, if you knew what you were doing, you can avoid them at all costs. And the last but not least thing that really did bother me about this game, and I know a lot of people, and the Maestro's give me that look because he knows I'm about to go on a rant, is the fact during the Mercenaries mode, they did not give Albert Wesker his Wesker powers during that said mode. The only thing they gave him was a knife. They gave everybody else every fancy gun known to man, bow and arrows. Oh yeah, by the way, another favorite weapon of mine that I loved about this game is the fact that you get a crossbow in this game with explosive bolts, but I digress because Wesker only got a knife. And I thought during that whole mode he was gonna do those Wesker punches, kicks, and Superman leaps in the air like if he was Neo to try to fight all those enemies in the Mercenaries mode, but no, only a knife, and if you're lucky enough to make it toward the end, a freaking Magnum revolver. That's it, which sucks. And you gotta fight against a horrible boss with only, 6 rounds and a knife. Yeah, that really helps. I mean, a couple of good speedrunners out there were able to beat it and even told me some secrets, but at the same time, still irks me that's the only thing they gave them. And with that little miniature Albert Wesker rant out of the way and Maestro already starting to roll his eyes, what do I think they can do to improve upon this game? Well, for starters, better controls for the game so you can avoid zombie attacks, and speaking of avoiding, maybe an ability to dodge the enemies like you could for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And as a matter of fact, why in the world you can't dodge the zombies during this, or even get the ability to use your knife as a secondary weapon to avoid zombie attacks? Like, for example, if a zombie tries to jump on you and at the one prime moment get a chance to stab him in the neck and take him out with an insta-kill attack. Would have been nice to see. And another thing, and I could be wrong about this, so a couple of you Resident Evil fans can correct me on it in the comments below when necessary, a new Game Plus mode for this game, cause I would love to get my revenge on the opening scene of this game that scared the crap out of me by using a crossbow, a grenade launcher, or even a shotgun to take out multitude of creatures that were lurking about in the opening scene of this game. Yeah, that's what I want. That and a chance to use those double Lugers that Steve had in the game too. And Maestro said stop revealing content for the game, and okay. I mean, this game was exciting, but it had its moments. And seeing the fact that we don't know how to review games along the lines of gold stars, coins, letters, or bricks, we review the game in only 2 ways. Will there be a video game story for this game in the near future? And do we recommend this game for you, the Resident Evil fan at home? Well, seeing the fact that we already did a Tales from the Disc for this game, yep, there will be a month of madness for Resident Evil Code Veronica X, mostly because of my sister trying to help me beat this game and a whole bunch of bandersnatches that tried to take me out during the said game, which was not fun and her advice was not helpful. And you'll hear about it more most likely in March or February. I'm not sure. We're still trying to decide, but we'll get back to you with a proper answer. And do I recommend this game for you, the Resident Evil fan at home? Well, if you want to play a game that has the G virus on a secluded island along with a new strand of virus that is causing mayhem and havoc in a small space that requires you to fight against spiders and other dangerous creatures that can only be found on that peninsula side of the world, and maybe a little bit of Antarctica chill along the way, then I recommend you go out there and cop that disc. And I guess with that said, folks, we might as well head back into the music, and when we return, we'll be back with the Indy Wall of Fame right after a word from our sponsors. So don't run out of continues just yet, folks, and stay tuned.